Hello, Srinath.
Hi, Johnny.
Hi.
Yeah, hi, Johnny. Hi, Swati. Yeah, we're waiting for some more guys. Hi, yes, Alina, Akriti, since Swati is in, okay, since we have to wait till, let me do the calls. Hi, Sai.
Hi, Srinath. Yes.
Okay, fine. So you were a type of driver, so you have seen something on JDBC yesterday, right? So today we'll be touching upon the main architecture and how basically JDBC works, right? Now, take up some diagram. Okay, so guys, you can mute up yourself since there is some disturbance going on, right? You can just mute up beside your name, there is a mic symbol. That is not really loud.
Srinath, there is some background noise and I can't hear what you're saying.
I think someone has to mute yourself. You guys can mute yourself. Yeah. I think there is no noise now, right? It's clear now, right? Okay, fine. So yeah. So now let us see the architecture of JDBC, or we say the steps that we need to follow in order to make a database connections with the databases from the Java applications, right? Now, so now let us say this block is our application, which is Java application we have here, right? And then we have a sort of database. So any database, it can be any database. So it can be Oracle database, MySQL, or anything we have here. Now, what we said is, in order to connect any database from Java application, you need something called JDBC. So JDBC application will be inside your app, right? So this is your JDBC app or jar, let us say. Now the first step what we have to do in order to connect to database is, the first step is that we have to get the driver of this database. Now the driver is a medium which is used to connect to database from our Java application. So who will be talking to driver is our JDBC. Now let us say the driver is here. Now this is a driver. Now this driver is nothing but, let us say if I am using Oracle database, which means I'll be using the driver of Oracle. Now this driver and JDBC will be intact, right? So we'll be loading driver on our JDBC. So we'll be connecting our JDBC and the driver which is needed. Now which means now the driver is ready and it is being communicated by our JDBC app API. Now what we will do, the first step what we have to do is we have to load the driver. That is the first step. And the second step what we have to do is, once the driver is ready, which means we are ready to connect to any database. Now let us say you can have any number of databases, right? Let us say you have Oracle database 1, right? Let us say you have second database of same type Oracle, you have your third database, right? Now what we said is, this driver is capable of connecting any database we sell, right? Now the question is how to get which database to connect. Is this database or this one or this one? Am I right? Now that is where your second step comes, which is get connection, which means second step is how to connect to a database. So in order to connect to any database, let us say, see, whenever you have any database, right, that database will be in some certain server, am I right? Which is all these, let us say this database is in some server. Right? So let us say the server name is some XYZ, some dot, maybe some, let us say oracle.com. This I'm talking about the host name, my host name of this machine. The server, whenever I'm talking about this server, this is nothing but a physical machine we have, right? That is, it is a Linux server whose domain name is this xyz.oracle.com, and each and every database will be talking to something called port. Right? Port is like, in order to give a layman example of this host name and port, this is like host name is an address. So there, let us say this is an address, and port is something called door number. So like if you want to connect, or if a postman comes with a letter, first you will come to the address, and then in this address you will go to the certain door number wherever he has to deliver the letter. The same thing happens here, right? Now this is IP and port of the server. Right. So whenever we in our upcoming sessions, whenever we go for Java networking, then we'll understand in much better way how to build IPs and how we actually have ports now, right? Not to worry. So here we have a server IP and we have a port. In the same way, DB will have its own name, DB name, right? Every database will have its own database name, and it will have some credentials. In order to open or log into database, you need something called credentials. Credential is nothing but a login credentials. You have username and password. So this will be same across all the databases. Now, let us say this database is in some other server, like let us say abc.oracle.com, some other server. It will have some other port, it will have some other name, it will have some other username and password, right? So in the same way, all different databases will be in different machines, right? So at that time, what we'll be doing is, so while connecting to database, we'll be taking all these parameters, like we'll be considering this server name, we'll be considering port, we'll be taking up name of the database, we'll be taking up username and password. And how to give that, we'll understand when we actually get into the main internal concepts of connection. Now basically now we are seeing the main flow architecture. Now if you have all these details with your JDBC, right, now whenever you say connect, obviously it will directly connect to this database. Now why I just gave the connection to port is, obviously this database is again listening to something called this port. Am I right? Now if you come to this port using this host name, port, name of a database and username and password of this database credentials, which means you are now connected to your database. So this is how you connect to your database. Okay? Now if you give some other server name, which is, let us say you are giving this server name and database of this server and all, right, then obviously you will get connection to this database. But as of now, let us say yes, whatever database you wanted, we have connected. So that is the second step, which is connection. The first step was loading the driver. Now we took the driver whatever we wanted and we loaded. Don't worry, we'll see how to load a driver, right? What is the type of a driver, and in order to load a driver, what should we do? So we'll be checking out those things, not to worry, right? So that is loading the driver and connection. Now the third step is, now once we are done with this connection, right, which means now we are ready to run the query. Now this database will have many tables, right? It will have many tables. So in those tables you will have much data. And now once you are done with connection, now this is a time where you can just get the data of or from any table whatsoever you want. So the third step is that you have to frame a query. Query in the sense, like you have to get, the basic queries of database, like selecting from any database, like select star from some table name and all. So now let us just make, let me write even those things in here. We said architecture. So the first step was loading the driver. And then we had something called connection. We say get connection. So in this get connection, we mention all the server name, right? We mentioned port of the server. We mentioned DB name, right? So we mentioned the username of our database and password of database, right? So as we are mentioning so many straightforward parameters, that is the reason why we are getting the connection to the right database we need. That is our second step. And the third step, I said, is to prepare your query string as such. These queries can be like, select star from, let us say, we want to get some data from students table. You can just say select star from students. Now this is something which is a SQL language, right? Which is a separate track of that, right? So now what we are intended here is not to learn queries, but here what we are intended to do is, whenever you have a query ready, how to run them. So the third step is to prepare the query of whatever data you want from the database, right? And then the fourth step is, now we have the connection, we have the query. Now how to run the query on database? We cannot just pass this query through connection and get the result. No, there should be some medium which will take our query, get it into database, execute that and get it back to the API or our application. Now who is doing that? We have something called statement, right? Statement is a class in Java which is used to run a query on database, right? So how does it work is, So this is a guy who is like a postman now. So how it works is in this way. So what happens here, whenever you create a statement, let us say this is a statement class, right? This is a statement class. Now, whenever you are ready with query, right, you just say create statement and will give this query. That is a step which is fourth step, which is the fourth step you have mentioned. The fifth step, what you say is, so in fourth step, whenever you create statement, which means your statement, your actual person who actually goes back to database, executes that and takes back easily. That is the step of statement. Now the next step of this process is execution. Next step, what you have to do is you have to execute your query. Now once you click or once you just write this process called execute, then what happens is statement will be moving on through this connection. Now how it can move through this connection? Because the statement is directly connected to this connection. We can create a statement through connection only. Unless you have connection being made, you will never be able to create a statement. Fine. So what happens? This guy will go to this address, this port, and we have given the database names and all in connection. So that's fine. We can go to this database, and whatever query is there in his hand, what it will do? It will give it to database. And what happens? This database will execute it, process the results, and give. So this is the statement we have here now. Now what happens here? So once the results are done, he will get back it, he will take it back, and again he comes back to our application and he will hand over the results. So that is how your statement works. Okay. And the statement, without statement, you will never be able to run any query on a database. Right? So that is the next step which we have, something called statement. Now all these are interconnected. Unless you load your driver, you will never be able to get connection. Right? Unless you connect to any database, you will never be able to run a query. Right? So all these things are interconnected. Your statement will be created from your connection. Your connection will be created from your driver manager. Right? So these are the steps. And now, so fifth step, what we said is execute. Execute is nothing but executing the statement. Now even execute, unless until you create a statement using this query, you will never be able to execute that. Now once you are done with execute, then, which means you have your results in your hand, then what you have to do? You have to process your results. So these are the steps. And anyways, across all the layers, you have to do one thing, which is exception handling. So in each and every step, we'll see how to handle, or we'll see in different steps what are the different exceptions which we are going to get, right? So this is the main architecture of the JDBC what we are performing. Now even among these all steps, right, it is being divided or bifurcated into two different layers, which is this. So loading a driver manager comes under something called driver manager layer. Right? Anyways, we don't see that difference because we follow direct steps. That's why I just explained you the direct steps, and now I'm saying under what it comes, right? So it comes under something called the driver manager layer, right? And these steps comes under application layer. Right? Which is very important. Now, why I am talking about driver manager is, so here everything is taken up by this guy. So this driver is something which we are getting from the database vendors. If it is an Oracle database, people will provide something called jar, which is a driver. Now, how to get that jar? We have to get it from, you have to Google it out and you have to get the jars, right? Or in a team, if you're working, obviously if you're working as a team, right? So if there is a application which is connected to database, right? So at that time, you will be having jars ready with your teammates, right? You can take up the jar and you can use it. So either ways you can use, right? But anyways, you'll get the jars in internet. You can download from the vendor site. You can download directly from Oracle's vendor site, right? Or if you are using MySQL, yes, you can download it from Microsoft's MSDN site. Right? You can download the jar from that. Now that's why whenever we load something, that is called as a driver manager. So after loading driver, right, it will be directly talking to something called driver manager. And this driver manager is a main guy who is taking care of connections and all. Right? So now in application layer, whenever we say get connection, which means connect. Now as I'm ready with my driver and JDBC jar, now connect. So while connecting, we give all these parameters, right? So that is a step where we give here. When we do this, obviously it go and create a pool connection in between your application and your database, right? And then so we create a query, we create a statement, and again this statement is being created by your connection. Until unless you have a connection need being made, you will never be able to move the statement. Now, once a statement is ready, then in statement itself you will be loading your query, right? And once the statement is ready, then we say execute. So this execute will be called from statement. And once you execute, the statement will go to database, process the results, get back the results, and it will give you the results back to your application. Now here we have to process your results. So again in results there are different things how we will get results. The first thing is you will be getting something called result set. Result set is something. Now let us say you are running a query called set start from something, which means you are intending to get some data from the tables in a tabular manner. So those data which you are getting in a tabular manner will be internally saved as a result set. I'll be showing you an example by connecting local my SQL Server database. Then I'll show you how actually we are connecting to the result set. Right? So that is a result set. Or let us say if you are updating some table, right? If you say update some table with some value, which means it will give you something called some Boolean results, right? It will just say whether the updation is successful or not. Or you get one more output called integer values. Int is nothing but if you are using some execute steps, I'll be giving you which one if you run and what result you will be getting. Int is nothing but if you give either it is 0 or 1. If it is 0, if it is 1, it is successful, and if it is 0, there is failure in updation or failure in execution of your query. So those are the results we should be touching upon. Anyways, these two are straightforward, but what we have to understand is the complete result set. Right? The complete result set. Anyways, while moving on to the JDBC, right? So we'll be touching upon all the JDBCs, which is JDBC. We'll be starting from 2 version. We'll be touching upon 4, 5, and the latest one is 6. So we'll be learning the JDBC 6 version also. 6 is something where your results. So all these versions, mainly whenever we talk about results, right? So we talk mostly upon the handling results. How do we handle results is something which will be based on different versions. Because getting connection, statement, execution, these will not be in our hand, right? These are something which will happen inside your driver. Everything happens inside your two things, which is inside your JDBC, the JDBC API, and your jar, which is driver jar. So these are something which are already written, so which we cannot change. But what we can change is the way to process results. So we'll see the different way of processing results, which is happening in different versions of the JDBCs. Right? So that is about the main architecture which we follow in order to create in order to process some results in database. Now, this architecture is same for any database. There will be no change across this architecture if you want to create a pool between database and your application. Now, whenever we are talking about these things, right, these things are interdependent. Once, if you want to skip one step, which means you will never be able to move to the next steps, right? We'll be checking out one example. There you'll be understanding much better how this is actually happening, right? That is our architecture of JDBC. Now, let us go step by step now. We said loading a driver. Now we'll see how to load a driver. And before that, what you have to understand is, yesterday we were talking about something called types of drivers. Based on different tier applications, right? Based on different tier applications, like 1 tier, 2 tier applications, we have different ways of, different types of drivers. And these types of drivers are being provided by different vendors of different databases. Right now, let us concentrate more on types of drivers. So in this class. Now, anyways, so these types of drivers is for your information, because in practice or in training, we can't actually build all the types of drivers as an example, right? That's why I was talking about whenever we started the main course content of Advanced Java. I said for JDBC, we won't be having much of practical, but we have to learn much of theory here, right? That's why even until the completion of JDBC, much of theory will be loaded. But in last class, I'll be showing you one example of connecting to the database and processing the results, different way of processing the results, and where to load this driver, where to load JDBC driver, where to load driver, how to connect them. Everything will be shown as an example once we are done with these tutorials, right? Now, let's talk about types of drivers. We have 4 types of drivers as such, right? So we have 4 different types of drivers we have. So the type 1 driver is, so why I'm saying type 1 is, yes, this type 1 driver is always type 1, right? So we can't shuffle these driver types actually. If you are talking about type 1 driver, which will be JDBC, ODBC, we call it as bridge driver. Okay. So this is the first of drivers, which is JDBC, ODBC bridge driver. Now what do we call ODBC bridge driver? We are actually connecting to JDBC here, and we are talking about JDBC, ODBC bridge driver. So why we are calling this everything will be seen. Right? And then we have type 2 driver, which is your native API driver, or we also call it as partial Java driver. So this is something which is a native API. Right? And then we have type 3 driver, which is all Java. You can say it as all Java, or again this is a net protocol Java or net protocol driver. I'm just giving you this a name. Anyways, this driver is actually called as native API driver, but I'm just appending this because this will give you some idea on whenever I say partial Java, which means this driver is not completely written on Java, right? So the vendors, whoever is providing this type of driver, which means he is providing the hybrid driver, which is some classes of this driver is being written in Java and some classes are not, which means this driver is not completely independent of platform. We cannot port this to one platform to another platform. And the third type, we have all Java, which means this net protocol driver is completely written in Java. And we also call this type as middleware. Middleware protocol. And then we have type 4. Yes, we have type 4 driver, which is all Java again. And we have native protocol. So this is the one which will be used mostly for the applications, which is native protocol, or we also call it native protocol driver. We call it as pure Java. right? Pure Java driver. Now these are the different types of drivers we have. Type 1 driver, type 2, type 3, type 4. Now in real time anyways, you won't be much specifying we have to use type 4, we have to use type 3, no. But yes, these things are directly tracked with their types. Fine. Now let us understand what is type 1 driver first. How does this type 1 works? Now this type 1 driver, you can see it is JDBC, ODBC bridge driver. Now ODBC is something which is okay. The ODBC is something which is completely Microsoft standard way of database connectivity. ODBC is called as ODBC is something which is open database connectivity. Open database connectivity. Right? Now, this is completely written in C++ and C, right? And some part of VC++ is being used, which is completely a Microsoft's way. I mean, it's a Microsoft native protocol, right? So you will find these ODBC drivers only in Microsoft's operating systems, like Windows operating systems, right? You won't be finding this, or you can't use this driver on any other platforms like Linux. No, you will not be able to use, right? Now here you can see the direct connection itself. It says the ODBC driver of your Windows machine is directly connected to your JDBC, and it will work. Now how does it work in programmatic ways? Now let us say you have, let me just use this one. Now let us say you have your Java application. You have your app, which is your Java application. Now we say in order to connect to database, you should have JDBC always, which means your JDBC will always be connected to your app, which is JDBC. Right? Now, how it is connecting to database? Now here you have database. Now it can be any database again. We can use ODBC driver, which is JDBC, ODBC for all type of databases. Now here how it works is, in middle you have something called ODBC layer. So this is your ODBC. ODBC. Okay. So here you have two different components, which is, first one is DSN. DSN is nothing but your data source name, and then this will be talking to something called your driver. Right? So this is something which is an extra layer. Now this complete thing is called as a driver. Now how does it work is, in DSN you have to mention all your server details, you have to mention the port, you have to mention something called database name, username, password, everything will be mentioned here, right, in DSN. So that is nothing but a source, DSN name, which is called as a data source name, and this data source name is ready with your all your database details, right? All the server details and database details will be ready with this. Now, whenever you load this driver on JDBC, which means now you are ready to connect with database. Now, how can you connect? Once you say connection, connect, right? If you go to this DSN, if you take the details using this driver, it will talk to the database. Right? It will talk to your database, and now yes, whenever there is a response, obviously again it will come into the driver, right? And through DSN, it will be getting back to your application. So this is how the driver is working, right? Now intermediate here is something about this driver, which is your ODBC driver. That's why we call JDBC ODBC driver. Now this ODBC can be used for any driver. The only problem with this is you have something called cross-platform. This application is completely written on Java, and this layer is not at all written in Java, which is some foreign language. I mean the foreign for this application, right? We also call as something called cross-platform, right? This is in Java, this is in some other language like C++ or something. Now, what does it happen when we use this? Is if you want to talk to from JDBC, if you want to, anyways, even though JDBC is something which is completely written on Java. Now, if your JDBC have to talk to your DSN or ODBC driver, which means first it has to understand, or it has to first understand that yes, I am talking to some driver which is written on C++. Now, which means it has to convert some libraries so that it can understand the language of C++. Which means whenever you are connecting to database, there is a cross-platform communication being happening. So that's why this JDBC, ODBC is not at all good for web applications, which is again very slow one, because it has to talk to some driver and then get the details. Again, whenever it is getting that, again it has to convert from C++ or the language of this DSN back to Java. Right? That's why. So this driver is not being used. In web applications. But yes, if you say that your web application doesn't need, let us take an example of banking, right? For banking applications, so database should be so. A database and driver should be so good responsive that we should never feel that the performance hit is being happening because of your driver, right? So in those cases, obviously, you should not use this type of driver, which is JDBC ODBC driver. But yes, for your maybe desktop applications or for basically small scale applications, right? This will be the best driver to use, because this is something where you have to configure in each and every machine. For a small scale web application, yes, if you are deploying the web application in your Windows machine, yes, you may go for this JDBC ODBC drivers, but not for real-time heavier database applications, right? So that is how your JDBC ODBC connectivity occurs, right? And this JDBC ODBC is the slowest across all the data, all the different types of drivers. This is the slowest one, right? And one more drawback which you have with this ODBC is, let us say you are developing any application and that is a desktop based application, right? And if you are using this type of driver, now what you have to do is, if you are delivering this desktop application to 100 different clients, let us say, right? You have to make sure on each and every PC ODBC, you have to first install your ODBC driver. That is very important. Until unless you have ODBC driver, you will never be able to run your program or application, right? Which means you have to install it first and then you have to configure details on DSN. Until you do this, you will never be able to run your program. That is why you cannot even use, if your number of clients are increasing, you cannot go for this driver. But yes, you can do it for small scale web applications. Why? Because in your web applications case, you will be using this ODBC in only one machine and multiple users will be connecting to your machine. So in that way you can go for that. But even then, if your database performance is not, if it is not considered, then you have to go for this driver. So that is your JDBC ODBC driver type. Right? Now let's go to the next type, which is type 2 driver, right? Which is the native API or partial Java driver. Again, so from this type 2, right? From this type of drivers, you'll be getting something called third-party jars, jar files, right? And the jar files is being provided by your vendors. Like vendor as such, if you're trying to use your Oracle, if you're trying to connect to your Oracle database, which means you have to use a native API or net protocol API or native protocol driver of the Oracle file. So that's how from this point on you'll be using the jar files. Now we'll see what is native API and how it is being connected. Okay? Let's go back here. Now again, let us say you have a Java application, right? And it is you have your app here, and yes, you are using your JDBC jar, right here, tightly coupled. Now in this case, we will be talking to something called jar file, which is native API. Again, it is something which will be using native API driver, right? And this native API will be talking to something called your database. Okay? Again, the architecture will be same. So JDBC, again, you have to, this is the driver, which is native API driver. You have to load your driver to JDBC, and whenever you start connecting or getting results, what happens? It will go through the native API, because this native API will have all the classes and all the interfaces which will be used to connect to the database. So that will be having here. You just have to call some methods, or whenever you load into this, right? So one class will be started, which is driver manager. As I said before, the driver manager is a Java class, right? So whenever you load something, all the internal methods, all the internal things, whatever is there, will be automatically mapped to your driver manager, and you'll be using driver manager to create your connection, right? So let us say once you are connected and once you start your communication, it will be going on through your native API driver, right? And then it will go into the database, and whenever it fetches results, it will again go to the native API and it gets back to the application. So this here is nothing but your type 2 driver. Now what is again, you can see that everything, the communication part, everything is same, but yes, what are the advantages we have here? Now advantages here, what we have is, like, it is the performance base, it is better than JDBC ODBC, the previous one, because this doesn't have to create something called bridge, right? Because in our previous one we have to give all the DSN names, and DSN in turn acts as a bridge. If you don't have DSN, your driver is useless, right? This bridge is not there. You can directly use a single jar is there, which you can directly use in coupled with your JDBC. First step. And then now here, as it is not written on complete Java, right? Again, this is something which is platform. It is not a platform independent. It will make your Java application platform dependent, because whenever JDBC talks to native API driver, right? Again, it has to talk to some cross-platform jar, and then get the results. And again, whenever it is requesting, you have to read, and whenever it is getting a response, again you have to do something called cross-platform communication. So there, it may hit the performance again, but yes, compared to JDBC, ODBC, this will be, the performance base will be higher for this. But anyways, even this protocol is not being using web application. Again, we won't be using this as a web in our websites. No. And there is one more thing here. Let us say you have completely coded your application. You have used this JDBC using this native API. Let us say it is Oracle database API, right? Now, what happens if your product guys have decided to change the database, which means you are moving from Oracle database to, let us say, MySQL. It happens in real time. This happens so many times. It happens, right? Let us say some guys were in my Oracle database, let us say, right? And they don't wanted to go for such a huge database because their application is so small. Then what they can do, they can skip from Oracle database to maybe MySQL. It can be, the reasons can be anything. It can be like Oracle database is so costly than MySQL, or they just want to go for some lighter version of, it can happen. Now at that time, what you have to do, the complete native API jar, you have to replace this with the new vendor's API. That happens, which means you have to rewrite the complete JDBC connections between these things, right? The maintenance obviously will change. Anyways, this dependency is there with all the drivers. Yes, even if you are using JDBC ODBC, you have to change the server names, you have to change right? You have to change everything. But only difference is, in JDBC or ODBC, if you are providing clients, if you have 100 clients and if you are providing JDBC ODBC driver, you have to ask each and every one reinstall or revamp your DSN. Again, it is not a right way to do that, right? That's why you don't use that. Yeah, and then and this native API is not thread safe one again. right? Your native API protocol, which we are talking about here, is not a thread set. If you are creating multiple threads in your application and multiple threads are accessing the same JDBC, right? Then obviously it will be killing your request. Then obviously when you are actually trying to get same JDBC methods, if you are getting a common class which is being used by multiple threads, then obviously make the complete method as a synchronized method, right? Because this API or this driver type is not a thread safe driver. So that is your type 2 driver, which is your native API or partial Java driver. Fine. Now let's move on to the type 3 driver. Right, type 3 driver, which is all Java and not protocol. Now this is something I said it's a middleware type. Right? Now why I said it as a middleware is, now this is not exactly a driver actually. So in this type 3 driver, you will be using any one of the driver again. So this is something which shows you, yes, there is a way to actually talk to your database. Now let me show you the architecture of that. Now how it works is, let us say you have an application again. You have your Java app and you have your JDBC bean. Okay, so you have your app and you have your JDBC tag to it, right? You have your JDBC tag to this. Now this JDBC app, right, will be talking to something called a middleware. Now what is this middleware? I said middleware, right? And this one will be talking to your database. Now this middleware can be anything. It can be server or web service or anything. What happens here is, this web service, in this you will be having any other types, which is, you can use one more driver here. It is not actually a driver, it's a virtual driver which internally uses some other driver. You have to create your web service. Let us say you are creating some middleware, you are creating a web service. Now whenever you are requesting this, right, what happens here, internally it will be using either type 1, type 2 or type 4 driver in order to make a communication. That is what is a middleware driver, right? It is not an actual driver, but yes, it will be using either one of them. If it is using one, obviously this is not optimized. If it is using 4, yes, you can use this middleware as a web application driver. But why we have this driver is, this is completely server based, right? This driver is completely server based and it is completely, will be written on Java, right? Because you are writing your web services by your own, which means you can write your, it will be on complete Java, right? The first thing. And second thing is, as it is completely Java, it is completely portable and is suitable for all the Java apps, right? And this driver, why do we have this is mainly used for caching purpose. What is caching is, now we call it as a connection pool or cloud, right? Now how you can use this is, so whatever connections you are making to database, right? So all the connections will be persisted in this middleware, right? All the results, query results will be persisted. All the database tables will be persisted. So that is where it comes. So type 3 driver is mainly gives a support for caching things or load balancing. Now here, what is load balancing? I'll make you understand load balancing stuff tomorrow. Even this middleware you can use for load balancing. Like let me give you. Let us say this database is capable of handling some 1,000 connections. Let us say, right? If there are more than 1,000 connections, let us say there are 2,000 connections. So what happens then? Obviously, you can't load 2,000 to this because it will be the remaining 1,000 connections will be collapsed. You should not play with the connection, because each and every connection is very important. If you are talking about database like a banking database, like whoever is depositing some money, let us say the banking guy is running his application and he is updating the money being paid. What happens if the connection is lost? The amount will not be updated, which is not correct. Right? In those cases, each and every request or database connection is very important. which means it has to be persistent. Though that load balancing can be done by a middleware driver, or we call it as a net protocol driver, right? And this driver is very flexible. Again, this driver is used for multiple database. Again, if you're using Oracle database, and if you're moving from Oracle database to some MySQL, again you have to change the one component here, which is a driver of that. It can be type 1, type 2, type 4, but you have to change it here, right? And this is the one which is most efficient of all. You can use this for you can use this for right? And there is one disadvantage of this one. Every time you have to open up your middleware and you have to work on this, right? So which means this is in one server and this will be in another server, which means every time you have to maintain another server. You have to make some installations to run this middleware in some other server, right? So that installation part is a small thing in here, which is a disadvantage. But other than that, this works enough. Yeah? So that is your type 3 driver. Now what is type 4 driver? So this is the one which is mostly used in web applications. We also call this as thin driver. So thin driver. Again, this type of driver will be there for each and every other vendors, right? And so this thin driver is, again, the architecture is again the same as what we have seen before. For this thin driver, you have a Java application app, right? And obviously JDBC will be connected here. And thin driver is a direct API again. Direct API, or sorry, direct jar, yes, API, which is, we call it as type 4, or we also call it as thin driver. So basically, we call this as a native protocol driver. We call it as native protocol driver, or you can also call it as a type 4 driver. It directly talks to your DB. And again, this type of driver is completely written in Java. That's why I just said all Java, right? This is completely written in Java. Now, if you are working for an Oracle database, which means the vendor whoever is providing this jar that jar will have all the classes which are completely written in Java, which means we can actually make these two tightly coupled. This is written in Java and this is written in Java, so there is no performance issue on cross-platform communications, right? So that's why this is so portable. We can make your application portable. And if you are using this in a desktop applications, again, it will be portable, but yes, you have to change once the database changes. If your database is changing, if you are replacing your database from one type to another type, yes, you have to update your driver. Or if you are upgrading your database, let us say you were using some 9th version of Oracle. Now if you want to use 11, obviously there may be some changes in drivers too, right? Even at that case you have to. Then there is no no way you have to do that. But anyways, in a real time, we won't be changing databases so soon. We won't be doing that. It will be very rare. If you want to upgrade this, if you want to upgrade, yes, you have to do that, but upgrades will be happening in a big scale, not like day by day it won't be happening, right? So that you can go for this. And yes, this is the one which is mostly used. It doesn't need any software installation. You can directly use a jar. You can use it that whatever I'll be using is this thin driver, right? Whatever I'll be showing you for my SQL server will be a thin driver of type 4, and we'll see how to connect them, right? But only a disadvantage here is it may not be disadvantage. What is, so whenever you change your database, you have to change your driver. That's it. It's a plugin one. You have to create your wrappers. As such, it's a pluggable one, right? That's why we say whatever you are coding on JDBC, right, you should not tightly couple with your app. You should code your JDBC classes as a pluggable classes. Whenever you want to change, you should be able to change only those classes, right? Even your Hibernate will be in the same way. You will be creating separate classes and one-to-one, the connection objects in a separate class. You will never be, anyways, those classes will be in app. I'm not saying no, yes, but it will be as a separate, component itself, right? So that is how we use Yes, and anyways you can see there are no much layers here. It's a simple layer, direct classes which you can use and talk to your database. Right? It doesn't have something called you have to use separate driver bridge ODBC or separate server. Even you can keep this whole thing in a same server. Right? The same thing can be in a same server. As we have seen this one, which is middleware, right? So I said this will be in a different server, server 1 and server 2. But this here, you can keep the whole thing in a same server. Right? So that can be that. So that's why this is the most feasible one, which is type 4. And whatever we will be learning and whatever I'll be showing you is something which is a type 4 driver. Right? Yeah, so
Srinath?
Yeah.
Srinath?
Yeah, Johnny. Yeah, Johnny.
So,
Yeah, hi Johnny. Yeah, Johnny.
database that, is there any database or any situation in this type 4?
I'm sorry, your voice is breaking. So what is that?
Yeah, is there any database or any situation where the type 4 is not supported?
No. No. See, type 4 driver supported is not a right sentence. We should say, type 4 is just a driver option being given, right? And vendor will be following some rules which have to be followed in type 4, and will be developing this driver, right? If you are using, let us say DB2, IBM's DB2, right? And IBM will be providing type 4 driver which will be completely compatible with the DB2. But you cannot use DB2's jar to connect to Oracle. Yes, that compatibility is not done. Yeah. So
almost all the major vendors will provide the type 4, right? Yes. The type 4.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Most of them. See, everyone. Each and every vendor provides all the type of drivers. Because yes, right? Because we may go for some driver, but they have to update all the type of drivers. Each and every vendor have to provide all the drivers. But what we'll be doing is we'll be taking. But yes, most probably whatever you get internet from vendor side will be mostly your 4 type of driver. Okay, which you can use across any application. It can be desktop or anything. They'll be providing mostly type 4 driver itself, which is completely written on Java. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Okay. Fine then. So let's wind up here and let's resume our class tomorrow. Right? And we will see much more different things.
Can you just share this in notes also?
Yeah, I'll share the notes. Yeah, I'll share the notes. Right? I'll share the whole notes. Fine. Okay then. Guys,
thank you.
See you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye bye.